Phasmophobia released at a special time. September of 2020 was a time in which both Fall Guys and Among Us were kinda going crazy online. Fall Guys exploded because of its goofy and lighthearted tone during a time of doom and gloom, as well as its simple but engaging gameplay. Among Us was the biggest game in 2020 because of the human interaction at the core of its gameplay loop, allowing people to feel connected in a time of unprecedented loneliness. Phasmophobia was another game that brought people together like Among Us did, but this time in a more cooperative way. While it never got bigger than either of its contemporaries, Phasmophobia was certainly an important game to launch in 2020. So now that it's 2022, why am I talking about it? When the game came out, I played it a couple of times and was satisfied. It was just a gimmick game that had its time in the spotlight, and now that was over. Then I checked the Steam numbers out of curiosity earlier this year and was surprised that it had more players than both Among Us and Fall Guys, despite them clearly outmatching Phasmophobia during the fall of 2020. I wondered why this was the case, so I re-downloaded the game and got lost in a rabbit hole of in-sim videos and came out the other side thinking that this little gimmick game was something a lot more special. Phasmophobia is a game that benefits heavily from an attempt to understand it. That is, to learn the game and find small tricks to identify ghosts. It implements many mechanics that attentive and knowledgeable players can take advantage of. While you can get by identifying ghosts through the traditional evidence system, that can become increasingly difficult on higher difficulties, and even impossible on Nightmare, where only 2 of the 3 evidence pieces will manifest, leaving the player with a couple of ghosts that need to be narrowed down by a behavior. Things like the fact that wraiths cannot leave footprints after stepping in salt, or that banshees can create a unique sound when the player is using a parabolic microphone, can be key identifiers. It adds an extra layer of depth to each ghost and rewards players for discovering or recognizing patterns. Granted, most people probably learn about all this kind of stuff from YouTube videos, but the act of playing the game and recognizing a behavior specific to a single ghost and having that pan out to be correct is still a satisfying feeling. The game promotes and encourages the player to be knowledgeable about how it works. They recently pushed this further with their latest update, in which no information about the new ghost's behavior was given. This is the first investigation period where the community will need to come together and figure out how these new entities work. I really love this, as it encourages the entire community to play the game and cooperate to figure out their quirks before the developers pull back the curtains. Even if you're not playing the game yourself, maybe it's too scary, you could still watch a YouTube video and get invested in discovering new things about ghosts. Another aspect of this system that I love is not every ghost has a simple or safe identifier. Things like the wraith not being able to make footsteps after stepping in salt are easy to execute and pretty clear-cut. All you have to do is put down some salt, use a UV flashlight, boom. If there's footprints, it's not a wraith. However, a ghost like the Revenant is more subtle with its unique characteristic. In order to do a Revenant check, you first need to get the ghost to hunt, which is already making this more dangerous. Then you need to check its speed. If you play long enough, you can kinda tell how slow it moves when the ghost is just roaming, but for newer players they will need to expose themselves to see if the ghost starts booking it at light speed. This adds a sense of danger to the act of investigation. There are other ghost designs similarly, like the yokai starting a hunt because you talk too much, and I always get a sense of dread when I come across one of these more deadly ghosts. Other ghosts have more subtle challenges and identifiers. The best example is the Goryo, which has EMF, fingerprints, and dots as its 3 evidence types. However, the only way to see the Goryo using dots is through a camera. It cannot be seen with the naked eye. This can throw the player for a loop when dealing with one, as most solo players will bring a camera with them just to check for ghost orbs real quick and then put the camera away and not check it for a while. Remembering this quirk to the Goryo's design can send the player running for the nearest camera or to the truck to check feeds. It's a small and subtle change, but adds to the things the player needs to think about and makes facing a Goryo a unique experience. Phasmophobia is a rare type of horror game, as it continues to scare me even though I have played it for over 50 hours now. I believe this is due to a few key factors, one being that all you can do is hide from the ghost. This was the same thing that made Outlast a smash hit. The illusion of hiding has been greatly expanded since the release of the game as well. Most ghosts have had their speed increased to where they are faster than the player, so you can't easily loop them like in the early days of Phasmo. The rework of door hiding spots has also fundamentally changed the game. Before, many maps had a door that the player could hide behind and pretty much never be found, as long as they kept their flashlight off and their mouth shut. This often would break balance and allow certain maps to be extremely easy. With their fall in relevance due to ghost behavior changes and the addition of more proper hiding spots in the environment, the game has become much more balanced and forces players to explore to find the best hiding spots before the first hunt of the game. Some of you may have taken issue with my comparison to Outlast, as a common criticism of that game is that the monster runs up to you and goes ooga booga and then you die without any penalty. The more death you experience, the lower the tension, as the game quickly devolves into a repetitive slog, as nothing is really all that scary anymore. This goes double for dying to the same enemy over and over again. The thing that sets Phasmophobia apart from this is twofold. On one hand, each mission is different, leading to a unique death each time. You aren't bashing your head against a wall trying to find the perfect inputs to get past one enemy. You are hiding from a different ghost on a different map almost every time, meaning that you either hide successfully or die. There's no going back. The other aspect is the sense of loss each defeat brings by losing valuable money. Each mission, the player can bring in multiple pieces of equipment that cost money. If the player escapes, they get to keep all the equipment except any of the sanity pills they used. However, if they die, they lose everything they brought. When you bring all the equipment into a mission, it can run you a pretty penny. This forces you to play cautiously during each mission, as replacing all the gear that you have is going to cost you, especially in the early game. Throughout every mission in Phasmophobia, there is a fear of death, and it only ever lets up if you do a base equipment run, or because you've been playing the game for so long that you have what is equivalent to an infinite amount of cash. At that point, I'd say you got your money's worth out of the game. The cash also plays a key role in how you play the game. Each mission will have challenges that can be completed for more cash once you've safely escaped. Some of these challenges require items that you have to buy, adding an extra level of risk reward to bringing in more equipment. Some of them require you to even play more dangerously, like the one requiring you to escape a hunt. Not only do you need a hunt to start, but you also need to make sure you get chased during that hunt, and then manage to evade the ghost, and then complete the mission and live till the end. All that just for some extra cash. Seriously though, if this video encourages you to dive back into Phasmo, I would highly recommend that you do these challenges, as they add so much to the experience of ghost hunting. You tend to push your luck more often and risk dying for the sake of more cash. This heightens the highs for only slightly lower lows. It also leaves you with many more unique stories to share with anyone else who you play with. That right there though is another part of the game that is special. Phasmophobia is a cooperative game in an age where it feels like everything has to be a competitive game to thrive. Not to indict competitive games, just to say that it's a nice change of pace from playing Apex, Dead by Daylight, and Halo Infinite all the time. Having to compete all the time can be exhausting, especially on off days where nothing goes your way. That's why these days I tend to gravitate more towards co-op games or low-stake competition like Chivalry 2. They allow for a more laid-back tone after a long day's work, and lead to less screaming matches about who threw the fight in a top 3 situation. One thing I think is most impressive about Phasmophobia is how it retains most of its scares during co-op play. Solo runs will always be scarier inherently due to their isolation, but a vast majority of the fear factor present in the game is retained by having someone else along for the ride. This is due to the game's reliance on anxiety and anticipating the scare, rather than outright terrifying things. You spend the game interacting with an entity you can't even see, and carefully planning escape routes for when the hunt starts. You will make a risky play, maybe moving somewhere else in the room, and hope that a hunt doesn't start as you are out of position to make it to your designated hiding spot. When the hunt starts, it's a panicked run to the nearest place to hide, and then a lot of praying that you aren't found. Phasmophobia is an immersive experience in that way. The goofy character models are the only thing that doesn't fit, but other than that, the game has a strong sense of atmosphere. The houses feel like real places. Take out the ghosts and leave the lights off and it could really feel like you were breaking into someone's house at night. It lends a sense of reality and familiarity to the environment and makes the paranormal activity present unsettling. Take this to creepier locations like the asylum or prison, and it brings the worst fears of being in a place like that alone to life. There is no music, just the sound of your footsteps and the equipment being used. During hunts, the groaning and breathless sounds of the ghosts fills the hallways, and their footsteps are easy to track. If every battle royale had spatial audio like Phasmophobia, maybe players would quit crying on my Twitter timeline. Perhaps the most immersive aspect of Phasmophobia is the way it integrates voice recognition.
How old are you?
The spirit box is my favorite item in the game for this very reason. Asking questions aloud in real life and having a ghost respond to you is really unsettling. It also helps that to use a spirit box, the lights must be off in the room, making that response feel very isolating without the comfort of light. It allows the game to transcend the traditional controls and be interactive in a way that I feel more games should take advantage of. This goes even further with the addition of VR into the mix. Playing in VR transforms the whole game into a wholly interactive experience. Reaching out to open doors or crouching in real life to hide behind something lean into the immersion present in the base game. Some of my favorite moments of playing Phasmophobia were spent in VR, despite only doing it a handful of times. I vividly remember this clip of my girlfriend poking me in the side while I was playing in VR, to which I threatened to commit 2 separate crimes, leading directly into a hunt where I take poor pathing, leading me to get chased and almost killed.
Attempt Operation Voodoo Doll.
Oh my god, Whitney, I fucking hate you. I'm gonna punch you in the face. I'm going to commit arson on this apartment complex.
Operation Unite.
I fucking hate you. You're so... Oh my god. It's one of my favorite moments in gaming this year. The moment where I turn to check my back with a flashlight and see the ghost crawling after me is an example of how VR makes the equipment more engaging to use. Not only did I have to physically turn my head, I also had to aim my controller in the direction of the ghost and press a button mimicking the real movement of turning on a flashlight. It's the same with a smudge stick, needing to both hold the smudge and ignite it with the lighter in the other hand, or holding an EMF in front of you and getting a level 5 reading. It allows you to interact with the other equipment in the same way you do with the spirit box, leading to a more intuitive as well as a more terrifying way of playing. I think the thing that surprised me the most when I returned to Phasmophobia was the depth of the gameplay loop. Each ghost has their 3 evidence types as well as unique behaviors to be aware of. Each map has a variety of hiding spots, but only some of them will be available per match, leading to early mission exploring to be a necessity. The challenges constantly shake up how you approach each mission. These elements allow the gameplay loop of Phasmophobia to stay varied and fresh for longer than it has any right to. It's a game that rewards attentive players while managing to retain its spooky edge well into the lifespan of the game. If you haven't played Phasmophobia in a long time, I highly recommend returning to it.
Get me the fuck out of this. Get me the fuck out. Get me the fuck out of here. Holy shit. Holy fucking shit. Oh. I don't know how the fuck did I live that, bro? I fucking turn around. She's right there, bro. Fuck me. How the